Hello, everyone. My name is Dwayne Kimball, owner and founder of KMD 89 VA Claims Consulting. Leave no vet behind, and also I'm a United States Army veteran. And today I'm here with another fellow Army veteran, Jay, who is a previous client of KMD 89, KMD 89, and we're going to be talking about some of his experiences with the VA disability compensation claims process and what my company was able to educate him on so he can maximize his benefits. So, hey Jay, welcome. I know we've talked on the phone so many times, but this is the first time we actually met. Can't say in person,
Yeah.
but just by video. So I'm glad. Appreciate you. One, thank you for your service, and thank you for taking the time out to do a testimonial, so we can talk about some of the things that I was able to educate you on and help you be able to maximize your benefits. So, hey, welcome. I definitely appreciate it. So, first question I got, Jay, is, can you explain or just talk a little bit about the frustrations that you previously had with the VA disability compensation claims process and what led you to contact me, my company, KMD 89 VA Claims Consulting, and how I was able to educate you on the VA claims process so you can maximize your benefits.
Sure, sure. And first and foremost, thanks for having me. Just to give you a little history about myself, I was 11 Bravo in the Army Infantry, 82nd Airborne Division. I'm a Desert Storm combat veteran, and I have been out since 2003, which is when I started the process with the VA. And it's just been nothing but an uphill battle. I mean, constantly going to different types of appointments, which, you know how that goes in the VA. But when I was putting in my paperwork for everything, it just, they give me a certain percentage, and then I would have to go back and go through it all over again, and they were up it up a little bit, and I would have to go back. Make a long story short, I got 100% at one point, but it was temporary. They reviewed it, 5 years, and then when the 5 years came, they reviewed it, and then they reduced some of my things. And at that point, which was pretty frustrating, because it's just a process. If you don't have somebody, you don't know somebody that can walk you through that process, because the red tape and the paperwork is just a huge process. But one of my customers at work, I saw that he had a disabled veteran's license plate. We just started talking to me. He told me he was 11 Bravo as well, but he gave me your number. And so when I called you, that's when we began this process together. And you sent me the information packet and made it, I don't want to say anything derogatory, but you made it easy for someone like myself to understand with the process. And it was just super easy.
Yeah. So, even before, you called me, I guess, what was some of the growing pains that you possibly, if you could share just a little bit, some of the growing pains, I guess one thing that maybe frustrated you. I know you said you did that proposal to reduce. And when they received that letter, how did it feel? Did you feel lost at that point?
Yeah, because it just felt like we are constantly having to prove ourselves. When you join, you raise your right hand and you say, yes, let's go all the way. And whatever that is, I mean, I went to combat, which is okay. That's what I signed up for. But they teach you a lot of things in the military. And, you have to transform yourself from civilian to a military lifestyle just to have that mentality. And all of a sudden, when it's done, you're left with those things in your mind, with those, and they're not all bad things, because they teach you how to be squared away, how to live your life, as we used to say, dress right, dress. But, it felt like I was just left out there to dry,
Right.
And it was very frustrating because, as I mentioned before, it's like you're constantly having to prove yourself, and if you don't have the correct wording, if you don't have the just whatever. It can be just a word that will throw it off. And with your information packet, your educational packet, it gave me wording verbatim exactly is what they were requiring for me. And it just worked out.
Yeah. I noticed you stated that, you had the proposal to reduce. I never personally, when I was doing my claim, I never received one of those letters. But I tell you, I talked to so many veterans that go through that and they get stuck because one, they're not expecting it. And second, man, when you get it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, and that could be a difference between, you can go from getting, if you're 100%, $3,100 a month, possibly down to like $200 a month, depending on what your service connected for. And not only can that be financially frustrating if you're, dependent on that, especially during this whole COVID-19 thing, if you're dependent on that to put food on the table and keep the lights on, and you get that letter and you're still not working, man, I tell you, I talked to so many veterans and you wouldn't believe the stories I hear like that, and their frustration level goes through the roof. But I know you had the part of your claim was very interesting. Like I said, I talked to so many vets and I get comments from a YouTube channel, emails through my website, and they say, I heard that they're no longer accepting DBQs. And I know you had did a particular DBQ. So if you can share, not, what the DBQ, what issue it was, but, just what did you do when you submitted the DBQ with your claim? And what did the VA try to do when you submitted it? And what did you decide not to do at that point? And how was the outcome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, first of all, just to go back what you were just saying, especially with the situation we are living in worldwide now with the COVID, my wife, she's a nail tech, and she does eyebrows, eyelashes, all those things, but she has just recently graduated from school. We were already used to getting a certain amount, and which was okay. She didn't have to work because we were getting a certain amount. But when they told me they were going to reduce, it really took its toll because, I was the only income at that time coming in. And I am still the only income because, it's almost impossible for her to get a job right now because of what she does. And we've already put the time, the effort, and the money into schooling, licenses, and all those things. But getting to what you were talking about, the DBQ, I had already been through the VA and they did the DBQ on their side, which they reduced.
Yeah.
That's when they did the reduction. So I went outside of the VA for my DBQ and was able to see a doctor. He got all that squared away. When I submitted everything, and it's funny because this time around, as soon as I submitted my paperwork, I got a call within a week and a half that I was getting scheduled for CMP. But they wanted to schedule me for a CMP for what I had already submitted for my DBQ. And I in hand called them back and said, well, no, because to me, I feel like there would be a conflict of the information of what my doctor is saying as opposed to what the VA would be, issuing out. So I didn't want there to be any conflict. But fortunately, they didn't give me any problems. They said, okay. And I went for my CMP portion for the physical portions that I needed to see them. Mm-hmm. And they accepted my DBQ, and here we are.
Yeah. And, and I'm glad you were able to answer that because like I said, I talk to so many vets on a daily basis and, it's unbelievable that, they're still saying what they said, or they're no longer accepting DBQs. They're no longer accepting DBQs. And I tell people, as long as the DBQ is not expired, it's completed by the correct medical professional, it's sufficient for rating purposes, then it's good to go. But now you have to become educated. Well, if you know that DBQ is good to go and they schedule an exam, what do you do? And like you said, you're like, hey, no, I'm not going. I have my private physician do it. It's efficient, and you don't want there to be any medical evidence conflict, between the two. So you didn't give them any information to use against you, or that rater to use against you, and go with the CMP exam that they schedule. And that's what I try to get people to understand. It's all about being educated, never
Yeah.
because a certain physician completed that DBQ that it is correct. Make
Mhm.
sure that it is correct before you submit it to the VA.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. One thing that I didn't know, and I'm sure a lot of veterans are in the same boat as I was, is I didn't know that I can go outside of the VA for medical information. I thought that it all had to be through medical doctors in the VA, and that's far from the truth. And with your information, I found that out that I can use civilian doctors for rating purposes. Like example of DBQ.
Right, right. So another question: did you find that after you submitted your claim, you got your educational packet, you submitted your claim. Did you feel how timely did your claim? Was it like 2, 3, 4 months from start to finish?
I want to see everything from start to finish was about a month, maybe a month, a little over, but it was very quick. This is the quickest I've seen it go through.
Right.
I got everything quickly. Everything was, I sent in the packet within a week or two. I was already getting called by the VES, which is the folks that are doing the CMP exams now, and everything went very smoothly.
Right. And, that's why I tell veterans, especially potential clients, or even when people come clients, once we have that consultation where we go over that educational packet, where not only are you being educated on the VA claims process, but how that process affects what you're doing, you want to get that claim in like 24 or 48 hours, because something can change,
Yes, you have to do it as quickly as possible.
Right.
As soon as you get all the information, submit it, because just like you said, I've seen it where one thing they said, where one regulation was a certain way one day, the next it changed.
Right, right. And especially with the DBQs, and I said this in some of my other YouTube videos, that personally, this is just me personally, I don't have any proof or anything like that, but it's just a gut feeling. I think they're going to do away with the DBQs. They're not going to put them back on their public website and make them available for public use. Like I say, I don't have any evidence or facts of that. It's just a gut feeling, because it's a lot of DBQs that expired this time last year. They haven't updated them. Okay. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't take a year to update them, but all the internal DBQs are updated for the CMP examiners. So, that's what I'm afraid of. And when I started my claim, back then in 2009, there wasn't any DBQs. And I'm thinking now, if they get rid of the DBQs, it's like going back to the dark ages,
Yeah.
and you're going to have to go to that CMP exam. And I think it's going to be even harder for veterans, because one thing I noticed with my CMP exams is once they schedule, and even back when I did it, you had to go to a VA CMP office. Those were the only people that were doing CMP exams. It wasn't a third party contractor like VES or QTC or LHI or anything like that. So I go to the CMP exam, and I get, a week later, I go back to the release of information office. They didn't have My Healthy Vet where you could go online. They didn't have any of that. I go back to the release of information office. One, you had to sit there for like an hour, 45 minutes, because there'd be so many people trying to get a copy of the VA medical records. And then when I got the copy of the CMP exams, I'm like, wait a minute. The examiner never asked me this. I didn't say that. And then you got to fight. And I tell people now, they'll say, well, I had a CMP exam. I'm going to do a high-level review. I'm like, well, what's on the exam? I don't have a copy of it. I'm like, what? You don't have a copy of it? You have to have that evidence. And I keep a copy of my claim folder right there. I use it as a prop, but I just built it myself. You know, everything that I sent in, I kept a copy, and everything that the VA sent me, I kept a copy, and I keep it in chronological order. Now, you know, I tell veterans you can get a copy, submit a FOIA request and get a copy of it on CD now. And I did that back the first week of January of this year, and I'm still waiting. You know, but it's just, you know, you gotta have the paperwork. You gotta be educated. You gotta have you gotta put the time in, because I'm pretty sure it was days that we weren't talking, or I probably gave you some homework or something, and you're like, okay, when I get off work today, I got to sit down and get this done and get it in. And a lot of veterans fail to realize they may have to put in some, you know, just some personal time in, you know, completing this process and even getting educated on the process.
Yeah, you're right. When I went for my CMP, when they reduced me and they said my condition had gotten better, the examiner, I feel that they're not fair, because they are asking you questions that kind of make you feel like you're going backwards, if that makes any sense. Yep. But they try to act like they're your friends. And, you know, now I know the process. Now I've learned a lot more. But a lot of veterans don't know. Right. A lot of veterans are right now, especially with the way this world is right now. There's a lot of veterans that really need this, because, you know, we have sacrificed ourselves unconditionally. Right. And I know, like myself and most other veterans, we're not looking for anything out of the ordinary. We just need that little additional help, you know, to be able to live the type of lifestyle that we should be living, you know. Right. And I'm not talking monetary, right? But I'm just talking about be able to live comfortably and not to have the stressors of everyday life, you know, because there's many things, like the pain that I deal with on a daily basis is just, it's just immense, and not too many people can understand unless they have been a veteran. Because, you know, many of us that have had to jump out of airplanes, you hit the ground, you're still walking, you know, the weight that you carry, the sleepless nights, you know, they train you to do so many things. And then when you become a civilian, you have to go back, and there's no training to go back to civilian life. Right. You're just out there, right? You know, so I'm just grateful that I was able to find someone like you that does care to help enough and educate. And that's all it really is educating the veteran, because you didn't do anything for me. Right. You educated me, and I did everything else. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner, because, man, I tell everybody that I've recommended you, the service has been phenomenal. I mean, no matter what time I call you or text you, you always seem to get back to me. And I'm surprised. I even tell you, man, I wasn't looking for you to call me right now, but you were just there working, and, you know, that's what it's all about, is just be able to help each other and be there for each other, because, you know, we're a big family. Right.
And, you know, you mentioned about, it's not about the monetary and thing. And this happened to me this year. I was working out. I got a partial tear of my rotator cuff from bench pressing. And I went through my private physician, because I had private insurance. And it was like, I got an MRI with an injection shot or something. And when I got the EOB, the bill, explanation of the bill, it was like $11,000. And the insurance company gave the hospital like an $8,000 discount, but they didn't give me a discount. And I had to pay like 500 and some bucks out of pocket. And so I paid it. It wasn't a problem. I paid it. I knew I had to have I knew I had a deductible. But long and short of it is, I go back because I'm like, I re-aggravated or something happened. And I'm like, do I need to get another MRI? And the orthopedic surgeon says, well, I don't think they're going to cover it. I'm like, what do you mean? I got insurance. Well, the insurance companies, you know, you got to wait a certain amount of time. And then I was like, you know what? I can go to the VA. And I went to the VA and I got it. And guess what? My insurance is on record with the VA, so they had to pay for it anyway. They had to pay the VA. So for veterans, that don't have healthcare insurance, especially during this time of COVID, 19, they probably lost their job, got laid off, especially if they're service workers and they don't have, Obamacare or whatever insurance that they have, they may not have. But if you at a certain overall percentage, now, at least, like except if you're 100%, you go to VA, you can get all your medical care. It's free for you, and that every little bit helps. So like you said, it's just not monetary, but just getting that treatment. I talk about in my some other YouTube videos. I went 12 years and didn't even know I could be compensated for my injuries, or more so, I thought about all the times I got cortisone shot injections in my feet for my flat feet from all the ground and pound, all that stuff. And I was paying for it out of pocket, working overtime, saving up. I got to go, and I could have went to the VA, but I just didn't know. And so now, with my business, that's what I try and do is just educate, veterans on this process, because, it's a benefit for you, serving this country. But just like I said, I talk to so many veterans on a daily basis, and that's my mission, to educate veterans so they can maximize their benefits, whether it be, through the compensation, or if they're trying to get to a certain compensation to get that free health care through the VA. So, but hey, I am so glad that, you gave me the opportunity, because you didn't know me we never met, visually. If you'd have walked down the street, I wouldn't even know that was you. But, with you not knowing me, like you said, coworker gave you my number, and you was like, hey, I want to become a client. And that means a lot. And it says, means a lot to me, because, I was a total stranger, and, you gave me the opportunity to educate you. And, you were able to be successful. What you did, you were a tremendous client. You did everything through the educational packet. You responded in a timely manner. You didn't wait. You weren't dragging feet on anything. And, I'm glad that you were able to get to that point. And, last question, how does it feel to finally be like, oh, now I can exhale. I'm done. I don't have to deal with this anymore.
Man, it feels great. It does. But I just want to touch on what you said. The medical side is really tremendous, because healthcare is very expensive. But, for the veterans that don't know those opportunities out there for them, they really need to check into that. But yeah, it feels great, man, because I fought for it for a very long time.
Yeah.
Over a decade. So I don't want to say exactly the time frame, but it was a very long time. So, I'm just grateful and blessed. I thank God that I had this opportunity. My colleague I met through, you through that person, the customer, I said, so it was a great thing. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you and the time and effort that you put into this as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
One last thing I want to say, because it's hard to trust people, just like you said, I trusted you, but I never felt anything but genuineness from you. And I really appreciate that. And thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, before we just wrap this up, thank you for your service. Again, thank you for entrusting me to educate you on the claims process and becoming a client. And congratulations again on maximizing your benefits. And always remember, first calf leads the way.
Those are all legs. 82nd Airborne Division, 2505 Parachute Infantry.
Okay.